make it bearable is to insulate oneself with one's friends so that you don't have to have anything to do with the other people on these tours. So, we can suffer together, folks, if you want to
Howdy.
pony up several $1,000.
And hello. We're gonna be
I don't
playing.
think they'll invite me
We're gonna be
back
checking
if
on
they have
the
anyone here listening to my pitch.
state of Tetris 99 in 2022,
Oh,
and we're gonna be listening
and the
to
optional
Terrence
cruise up
McKenna
the
talk
Nile will
about
be there
language or
too.
something. I'm not
So
sure exactly what this
2
talk is
weeks
about,
of
but it's
incredible
probably gonna
fun.
wander.
There'll be a come as you were party on the third
It
night of the cruise.
it's like psychedelic. He's a psychedelico, I guess you could describe him as, and he talks
So, and
about
that's
psychedelics and their
poking
impact
fun
on
at our
humanity and possible
colleagues
theories
there.
of why they
Finally,
exist
there is a
and
book
what they have to
out.
do with us and just a whole bunch of
Those of you
crazy
who,
shit. So
if you've ever wanted to buy a Terrence
if the
McKenna
audio
book
is off on
and have
that,
been
please let
frustrated
me know,
because you didn't want to grow psychedelic
because
mushrooms
I
in your
want
kitchen, which was
it
the
to be
only other
heard.
book around,
It's interesting stuff.
you can now purchase this
And
book.
I'm really high right now,
However,
and
only
I
in
enjoy it.
porcelain
I think
bookstore
that
because it
that
can't
and Tetris
legally
goes
be
well together. You
sold
can
till the
kind of get into a
17th of
Zen state.
February.
And there's
So
still
the
people
Esalen
playing.
bookstore
Holy
made a
shit, the match
special
is
deal with
filled. Oh, is it gonna be
Valium and got
bots?
a couple of cases of it
Oh
for the souvenir.
man,
So you could
I
actually
wonder.
be the first person on your block.
All right.
The title is Food of the Gods, not Why Eve Was Right, which is what I wanted, but you learn your place in the hierarchy of being.
I'm going back to what I know. Targeting attackers, baby.
But
Well, this
seriously,
is gonna be really
my best
messy,
shot
at
at
least
making
initially,
a
until I get back into
argument,
it, and probably
sort of,
slow.
based
Please
on
don't expect too
archaeology,
much from me.
history, and so forth.
There is no guarantee I'm gonna
For
get
the
an
importance of
L this evening
psychedelics
at all,
in culture and in the
and
present
I'm okay with that.
situation,
I just,
and
if
for a need
anybody's here
to
for like the
rethink
hyper competitive
cultural and legal
stuff,
attitudes toward these things.
it's not really the
So
scene,
that's in the mix.
I mean,
And
it can be fun to
I
get
think I'll
competitive,
save
but
the rest of this paper for tomorrow morning.
T-spins. I just remembered that there's a thing called T-spins, which I learned I learned to do in the not too distant past. Because I made friends with other Tetris players who used the tactic, and I decided I'd get into it eventually, and I did. I haven't. I'm not a master by any means, but it's a great addition to my repertoire.
Revival, which will be out in May, and which
Sorry,
will
Terrence.
in
Go
no
ahead.
way
Go ahead.
duplicate this. They're completely different books, but there was a little jostling toward the finish line.
I'm trying to figure out what exactly I want to do over there.
Go first.
I mean, I guess
After
I could
20 years
T-spin
of
you
being
in,
ignored,
but,
it was
but
nice
then
to see that
I didn't have much to
people
follow
were
it up
paying
with, which is
attention.
unfortunate.
So
Because that can pay dividends if you're
that's
poised
it
to
for the
capitalize
gossip
by having
part.
more stuff to drop
Welcome
after it.
to Esalen.
Is the way I
Those of
understand
you
it.
who've never been here before,
If I'm a fool, please let
welcome
me
to
know.
the refurbished big house fans
Bitch,
of
come on.
renovation who have been here before.
Ah, fuck.
And,
That was a
the
mistake.
best way these things
Okay.
work, I think, or
Might
what
be able
we've
to salvage
fallen
that.
into as a
Fuck
habit,
off.
is on this first meeting.
Nope. Fucked it up. Oh, shit.
People basically
Okay,
just
right there.
state if they wish
Ah.
to who they are, but
No.
for my
Oh, shit.
edification,
Oh.
what can I tell you? What do you
Nope.
want?
I'm
It's
done.
brief
Damn,
enough
that
and
first
will go
match
past very
was not
quickly.
lit.
So,
But it was still
out
fun.
of
That was fun.
people stating their
57.
interests
Oof.
and concerns,
Big L.
tonight will come an agenda
Bigelow.
of topics for the rest of the weekend.
Bigelow.
And once I get going,
Next
my
match. Man,
style
I
is
was out of
very
there
much
in
just to
under 5
rave.
minutes.
So
Fuck,
feel
much
free
less than that
to
because I
interrupt.
started the stream,
Otherwise, it will just
fiddled
be
around a bit,
and
and then got into the match. Had to wait. I was in that
interrupt
match
for clarification or to ask a question
mere moments.
or whatever. It's very informal.
Ideally, ideally, yo, like ideally though,
Does anybody have a
me and you,
catalog?
I be doing what you doing. Ideally, yo,
We
but
finally just
no, ideally I
hurled
can get
all pretense to the
an L
wind
to
rather than
a
endlessly
dub tonight, and
recycling.
but
Well,
it's not the priority. I'm here for a good time.
we can probably fill that bill. So,
Oh
this,
fuck! And as you can
to my
see,
mind, the
I
importance of
have
these
lost
things
my mind.
is
What do I do with
that
this now? Here, you
everybody
go
is
there.
self-selected to be here.
Whatever.
And it's an extraordinarily peculiar set of concerns that fall into nexus in this situation. So we represent some kind of an affinity group, and I think it's very important for the people to get to know each other, because all kinds of relationships, arrangements, possibilities can emerge out of these meetings. Someone in this room has what you're looking for, and your problem is to figure out who, and then go from there. So to aid you, the clues emerge tonight when we go around in the circle, and everybody gets a brief chance. And for some people, it will be probably their only opportunity, because some people step out of the light, to say anything you want,
Yes.
provided it's brief. Lack of brevity is proof of psychosis in this situation. And after all, we are in a center for psychophysical healing.
All right.
So please honor
I'm getting
that.
some of the feels back a little bit. I won't talk too much shit because that never works out well for me.
Couch it as a comment to you, but it will come out in some other form anyway.
But now I'm getting a little more confident, building a little higher. I feel like
doing what it was designed to do, but
it's gonna backfire on me sooner than later. Fuck. Like then it could have in a big way, but I got very lucky.
Has no real business going. It's a very limited method that achieves its claim to universality by wildly.
He's talking about science right now and how it's limited, and moves outside of its scope very often. It thinks it's a meta system, but it's not. Is the argument?
But probability theory has a built-in assumption that has never been thoroughly looked at, and that is the assumption of what Newton called pure duration, meaning that science, if you would describe a scientific procedure to someone, they don't ask whether you did it on a Wednesday or a Saturday. Science seeks to be time independent. And in order to do that, it has to make the assumption that time is invariant. This is just a first try with Occam's razor. In fact, in our own lives, what we experience is endless variation. In other words, it may be that the hydrogen bond, when it breaks, always breaks the same way. But love affairs, investment strategies, political campaigns, the building of empires, these things are always characterized by a kind of uniqueness. And science, by invading these domains with probabilistic conceptions, gives us the science of statistics, polling, and hands to us mythical entities like the citizen or the average white male, or these are just absurd abstractions that are generated by a particular kind of worldview that is not really examining its first premises. So I would propose a modified definition of science that would then let it do its work in peace, which is science is the study of those phenomena which are time independent, but that in many realms of nature, a new theory to replace probability theory and flat duration is necessary. the power of probability is simply based on its success in these very, very limited domains. And now there's no way back from that. Modern science is thoroughgoingly probabilistic. If you were to try and remake, I mean, they're always raving about the new paradigm in science, and it's always usually some tiny diddling of what they've already got. If you were to really try and
he has such contempt for science sometimes that it's funny.
The assumption of invariability in time,
and I don't necessarily agree with everything he says, but I do find everything he says, most of what he says, interesting.
Tomorrow, because there is room for that. I mean, science is not reason. Reason is a different domain, and I think anything which is unreasonable, ultimately unreasonable, is just patently absurd. That's why I don't feel great affinity with most of the marching hordes of the New Age, because, the fact of the matter is they don't possess any
it got faster really fucking quickly there. I was not expecting that. Oh, it must mean I'm getting close. Okay, cool. I made it a little further this time, it seems. Fart. Poop.
There's a vast set of possibilities in
fart
between
poop.
There and beyond.
Fart.
Those poles of discourse.
I mean, it's gonna slip out eventually, but I'm trying to keep it from happening as long as I can.
Has had the built-in assumption.
The old F-bomb, ladies and gentlemen. It's gonna come eventually.
And then it would all fall into place, and that they had the right tools for doing
Yikes.
that. And but we look back then with this great sense of superiority on the naivete of the ancient Egyptians, the ancient Greeks, the Maya, the 17th
They're gonna start aiming at me, and I don't like it. Oh no.
Their naivete. But in fact, our own cultural enterprise is obviously fraught with a peculiar illogic and childishness and naivete. I mean, we're a culture that robs our children to create a potlatch culture in the present. And this will look This would look fairly pathological from any cultural perspective outside our own.
Man, he's fucking right about that.
I mean, this is a segue, but it makes sense. The thing that I think psychedelics do that addresses this problem and
no, fart. I'm done, damn it. 4th place? Yeah, that's not so bad. He's heating up.
The contribution that they make is that they dissolve boundaries. And culture, I mean, the word virtual reality was used as we went around the circle. Culture is the sanctioned virtual reality. And it is put in place by the machinery of local language, you see. And so then you're born into this circumstance, and you're told, you are a male child, you are a citizen of the United States, you are a Christian, you are a Jew, you will go to college, you will do this. And you never question. It's called the social contract. It hasn't gone unnoticed by Western philosophers. It's gone unnoticed by those of us who are its foremost victims. They try to tell you that you're in a social contract, but when you ask to see your signature on the document, they tell you that you were born into this contract. Well, what the hell kind of contract is that? It means that you were born into a kind of enslavement to a linguistically empowered paradigm of virtual reality.
I just had a whole fucking conversation in my head, man.
Your entire life.
I'm so glad. All right.
Congratulating yourself on its accomplishments and ignoring its contradictions and weaknesses. So what psychedelics do, and why they are in all times and all places such social dynamite, is they dissolve the cultural machinery. Doesn't matter. head-shrinking Amazon native, Hasidic Jew, Chinese merchant in Singapore, whoever it is, the psychedelic dissolves their cultural construct and puts them in touch
It does
with
that.
the fact of being
This is
in organism.
True as shit.
Being an organism is like what you get when you take off your real clothing. Not this clothing, but the clothing of language, programming, and assumption. Then you find yourself within the context of organism, outside the context of culture. And for the reason this is not a mass movement is many people hear that and they say, I know what that is. That's called being nuts. I don't want that. That sounds absolutely terrifying. Well, these are people for whom that cultural machinery is necessary armoring in an almost Reichian sense. Necessary armoring. They cannot face the world without culture because
don't do me
are
like this. No.
No.
Oh, man. Damn it. Oh, well. That
People,
wasn't the one for me.
Each to some degree
what can you do? You know?
This category.
It's okay. I'm reloaded.
By the engines of commerce.
Glenda has never had the dessert
These are the people who
from Tijuana Flats. I forget what they're called. Like
as they are told to spend, believe as they are
the churros are good, I think. I'm pretty sure. But there's like some flautas, some chocolate flautas or something.
There is a kind
They're banging.
of at least the possibility of a
oh, nice.
Against this kind of
noise.
Anesthesia of uniqueness, because that's what it is. You can put your uniqueness to sleep.
Put your uniqueness to sleep. Oh, how sad is that? What another thing I guess I could do is maybe make it to level 90 as a milestone for the night if I can't eke out a Maximus.
Definition from without means being defined by
I don't know.
machinery.
Felt cute. Might win later.
Cultures other than our own have somehow always known, perhaps because nature is such a huge force outside the Western industrial democracies, people have always known that this was a fiction.
Boom.
That the world of cultural values is a necessary illusion, if you will. And so they create a class of people called shamans or seers or magicians or trans-ecstatics or what have you. And these people are deputized by the cultural machinery to go beyond it. To go beyond it and to return with truth. Not culturally sanctioned truth, but just truth, the felt experience of being an organism that I'm talking about. And by this process, cultures conduct their evolution, if you're an evolutionary thinker, or their random walk through time, if you're more of a phenomenologist. But whatever they're doing, we're not doing that, because the mechanisms that we have used to close off access to the beyond culture
I'm gonna have to start considering if the angle that I sit at when I play very often may be affecting my neck.
To the point where we've put ourselves out of business.
I hope not.
People to blame for this are these wily Greeks.
But I guess I can move stuff around if I have to.
Because
no point injuring yourself.
Was carving
because of laziness, basically.
And painting themselves with cross-hatching and stuff like that.
Yep, I remember the great cross-hatching days.
We'll do it differently. We will portray the surface of the naked human body in marble. What this means is that the eye rises to the surface of reality.
You know what? I'm gonna make it ugly real quick, just because I think that'll save my life.
From the point of view that we
at the end of the
call
day,
naive realism. But what a cultural journey it took to reach naive realism, because you had to sever yourself endlessly from the intuition of a symbolic, magical, spirit-haunted universe.
I live to fight another day.
Through a series of cultural accidents, and I would say mistakes.
As soon as I open my mouth.
Achieved this, and they had then an alphabet.
Close your mouth, Sammy. God damn it.
Which empowered a further severing of linguistic intentionality from the essence of the object
Fucking
intended.
Shit.
Because you see, a phonetic alphabet symbolizes sound. It doesn't symbolize the way something looks or its thinghood. It just symbolizes sound. And the phonetic alphabet then issued into a series of cultural styles: science, rationalism, mathematical analysis of phenomenon. I mean, this was something absolutely unheard of, and is the unique contribution of the Western mind, that, you know, people noticed that you could take a gut string and shorten it by half, and the tone would shift 1 octave and stuff like that, and they got the idea of numerical analysis, which opened up the path into culture to the present world.
I know my phone is buzzing, but I do not have the time to look at it right now.
And remember, I said we
would
call it naive realism.
Not right meow.
Now that word takes on a
I'm doing science
meaning from the context of the 20th century. It was naive. It was horribly naive. In fact, we were led down the primrose path by such simplistic notions, because what was suppressed was the invisible, messy world of the spirit and the human unconscious. This is the great tension that illuminates Greek civilization. You know, take Plato as an example, because here in one thinker, these distinct strains of thought, these antithetical strains of thought are perfectly present. You have, you know, an overarching realism, a drive to categorize and to arrange in rational relationships, and you have a thoroughgoing mysticism with roots back into the Minoan religion of Crete and back into Egypt and Africa. I mean, it's really extraordinary. And that was the last moment in the Western cultural enterprise when these things were in balance. And they were not in balance in any one particular person. If you lived in that world, you probably had to pick and choose. And, you know, the skeptics were sneering at the Gnostics, who were saying secret knowledge came from an unspeakable place beyond the machinery of cosmic fate. And the skeptics
thought, you
know, baloney. What kind of talk is that?
No. That wasn't. It wasn't meant to be that time, unfortunately. And
because, like all forms of innocence,
then
if allowed to grow beyond the proper bounds, it becomes festering. It becomes decadent. It becomes not innocence but idiocy. It turns on itself. And this is, I think, the kind of world that we're living in. Now, parallel to this, a cultural adventure of several thousand years, the rainforest peoples of the warm tropics of the world kept intact the high Paleolithic style of cultural relativism, mitigated by
I'm 13, lucky number 13. I'm going to go again, but first I am going to take a quick break for some water.
With hallucinogens. Now,
other stuff. Maybe I should get some of my
reductionist,
candy bacon caramel bacon popcorn. I got some caramel bacon popcorn recently. I also picked up some berry flavored popcorn, but that one wasn't as good.
Of transcultural being. It isn't that. It's that
I picked
in
it up
that
in
shimmering
Oregon,
transcultural
somewhere
realm
near,
of being,
like
you
30 minutes away from
discover
Astoria.
new modalities,
But
new rules. There's something
if I go there again, I'm
there
gonna try a different
when you
variety.
dissolve
Also, the food
all
there
the
was terrific. I think it
boundaries
was
that
called the
you
Berry
can.
Patch or something.
And the
But I
paradigm
digress.
of what is there from the point of view of
And
the
I'm going to
legacy of nationalism
take that break I
what is
just
there
detailed.
is
Okay,
an immense
be back.
love and affection and intentionality waiting to engulf suffering mankind or the individual. This is what I call the mind behind nature, what people call Gaia, the mind of the planet, the organized intellechy that somehow is the mothering force that encloses the whole of planetary life. This is a real thing. And I would never have thought so had I not had experiences which forced me to consider this. I think without the experiences, that rap comes off as horribly namby-pamby. You know, I mean, it's just, oh my God, not another one of these Gaia people, you know. But, in fact, this is a fact of reality, which anyone who has the courage to make the proper investigations can satisfy themselves is a real object of experience. You see, I'm 45. I grew up through the 50s, and I can remember these movies where the white people get captured by the cannibals and put in the pot to be boiled, and there was always a witch doctor, right? Well, this guy just epitomized the most nightmarish forces of unbridled primitivism and ignorance imaginable. Now, this has become, or is in the act of becoming, I hope, the guiding paradigm of the culture, because what the shaman is the person who is still, and it's men and women, the person who is still in touch with this organic intelligence that lies behind nature. Now, the puzzle behind all of this, I really don't think that there would be much of a problem if what we were dealing with was a planet with teeming oceans, teeming jungles, climaxed forests in the temperate and tropical zone, Arctic tundra, so forth and so on. The clue that something weird is going on this planet is ourselves, obviously. I mean, we are like a fart at the opera. Everything else makes sense. We don't make sense. And the speed with which the human type emerged from the proto-hominids is unparalleled in the evolutionary history of life. Edmund O. Wilson called the doubling of the human brain in size in under 3 million years the most rapid doubling of organ size in a major animal in the entire history of life on this planet. Us. There's something weird about human beings. And so much of the explanatory machinery of culture is designed to make it go away. You see, even something as respectable and expressive of liberal values.
I'm gonna be chewing on some popcorn for a couple
is
minutes,
in fact an effort to
so I'm gonna mute my mic.
it's all okay.
But feel free to just sit and vibe with
Don't
me
worry.
and Terrence
It's
McKenna,
natural. You just get mutation,
and then I'll get back
you
into
have natural
Tetris.
selection, and you
Yeah.
have traits, and the traits extend themselves. But it's a great step, to Milton, to the space shuttle, to an integrated global economy. I mean, are these the products of animal existence? The Darwinist says yes. And we tend to huddle under his umbrella because, these shit-slinging fundamentalists seem to be the only other people out there. But obviously, when you're impaled on the horns of that kind of a dilemma, there needs to be a breakthrough to a third, fourth, or fifth possibility. And what I will argue for this weekend is that something very, very peculiar adheres to the adventure of being human, and that it is not all business as usual. We are not simply an advanced chimpanzee. Neither are we the sons and daughters of the Lord God Almighty. I mean, that also seems to me a stretch and to raise certain problems not easily swept under the rug. There has to be a third possibility. And I think that when we start, as we will tomorrow, talking about the way psychedelics synergize and stabilize certain abilities within a hominid population, and the way in which then other cultural reinforcements can be built upon that, you will see at least part of the story has to do with the way in which, by being forced toward an omnivorous diet, by virtue of having to leave the canopy homeland for a bipedal existence in the grasslands, we had to undergo a huge dietary change. And part of our strangeness has to do with the evolutionary changes worked upon us by virtue of our exposing ourselves to unusually high amounts of mutagens in foods as we expanded our diet, and drugs and foods come in here. The other part of the equation, which is much more speculative and which we'll talk about tomorrow night, has to do with the notion of an attractor, and of trying to look at humanness not as
one thing about this popcorn is that you better be ready to chew,
or as Heidegger said
before you swallow.
Man, he said we are flung
and it sticks to your teeth a little bit. But it is really good.
That it doesn't make sense, that there's
Buttery,
arbitrariness
bacony,
to us.
caramel-y.
But I think that there's a way of analyzing process that will show that we are not only part of what is going on, an embedded part of what is going on, but that we actually represent the place where all the eggs are poured into one basket. And I'll just say a little bit about this tonight. When you look at the history of the universe, if you look with unbiased eyes, I think that what you will see is that the universe is a novelty-producing and conserving system of some sort. The early universe was so simple that when we now we're going with science here for a minute, we're asked to believe that it sprang from nothingness in a single moment, that its diameter was less than that of an electron. And then in a very short period of time, a number of very dramatic things happened, but they are all couched in terms of an expansion and cooling. From the moment the universe is born, it begins to cool. And as it cools, complexity magically crystallizes out. The original universe, there weren't even atoms, because there was such high temperatures that atoms could not stabilize themselves into orbits around atomic nuclei. So there was what's called a plasma, just a soup of naked electrons. And then gradually, as the universe cooled, the simplest of all atomic systems was able to form, the hydrogen atom. And these hydrogen atoms were produced in staggering amounts, and they began to clump together. And this is tricky, but not our problem. This is a problem for science. They don't know why they clumped, because it should have all been smooth, right down to today, but it isn't. So in this clumping process, of course, great temperatures and pressures were created at the centers of these masses of hydrogen, and a novel process, therefore, could spring into existence, the process of fusion. And fusion of hydrogen in early stars cooked out heavier elements, iron, sulfur, and especially carbon. Well, after that, then you get all those molecular or atomic species, and then they can aggregate into molecular species. And then, because of the presence of 4-valent carbon, very complex molecules called polymers, which are chain molecules, can form. Some of them acquire the quality of being able to replicate. Some of them acquire the ability to enclose themselves in a membrane, and so forth and so on. And in short, the march is on toward you and I here this evening. But what's interesting to note is that each successive stage in this process happens more rapidly than the process which preceded it. So that the early universe, 10 billion years goes on, and it's all in about this star formation cookout thing. And then, planetary formation. Then once you get, and then 1 billion years, they wait for primitive prokaryotic life. And then, once it happens, the eukaryotes follow fast, and after them, the ciliated protozoas, and, it's just a moment to Madonna. Both of them.
All right, let's get back into it.
Okay.
If
Now,
the mouth sounds become too much
this
to bear, let me know, because I am going to be tonguing my teeth down
what we're seeing is an illusion,
to get some of that popcorn out of there.
that it doesn't matter.
It's a
They're
price you
saying
pay to enjoy
it's
the
not a law of the universe
popped
that
corn.
novelty
You know?
conserved, and that
Just
each
something we learn to live with,
level
like
of
burning the
novelty
shit out of the
proceed more
roof of
quickly
your
than the
mouth
one which, was
on pizza because you're so
expected.
anxious to eat it
And so
that your
by
greedy ass can't
chopping
wait.
it off
You know what I
like
mean?
that,
It's just one of those
human
things.
history
And you do it again and again.
is denied any relevance in
Because
the
you know why?
natural
Because it's
order.
fucking worth it.
It
Food
is
is
not
amazing.
part of the natural
Human
order.
beings are
And even though
weird
we
creatures.
think we're
Animals are
a
super
secular
fucking weird,
society,
right?
our assumptions about history are straight out of
Designed
Genesis.
to adore
We do
eating
not
because it
think
keeps
of
us alive.
history
What the
as a
fuck?
branch of biology,
Anyway, let's get into it.
which it obviously is. So
That's
what
what
I
she said.
believe is happening is an accelerating process of novelty.
Yeah, I had to put that popcorn down. I could eat, man. I don't
that
wanna.
has reached such a point now.
Oh no.
At the close of the second millennium.
Oh shit.
That it is absurd
There's a couple ants here.
to try to propagate the human future
Are they on this?
by fantasy centuries into the future.
I think I may have just seen an
There
ant
is no
on this.
future.
Yep, trying to get in there. I hope I
Because the
didn't eat
rate
any
of
ants. It's quite
acceleration
possible,
is so
and I am
close
so
to
sorry to them.
approaching infinity
But now I'm gonna have to
that
chuck
no
this.
possible future can be imagined. Now, people talk about this, but they never draw the
Freaking ants,
implications
man!
of
How am I gonna
I've
win this
seen
match? Now
some
worried about ants.
show on
Oh
television
crap!
where they say, here's the curve of human energy release, and here's the Stone Age, and here's the 16th century, and here's the 20th century, and it's headed for infinity. Okay, next slide. Here's the curve of human speed. In the 1750, people could go as fast as a horse could gallop. In 1820, the steam engine, and then the 20th, and then it goes to infinity. And they say, okay, here's the human population curve. In the year 1000, there were 400 million people on Earth. In the year 1850, and so forth, and it goes to infinity. So nobody they don't believe it. They don't believe that the rational extrapolation of the trends visibly beheld in the present preclude the possibility of any imaginable future. Or at least I don't believe so. I believe that we're actually in the grip of a process that cannot be halted or accelerated, but which is now in a process of tightening its gyres, as William Butler Yeats said, that what we call the chaos of 20th century history is in fact the speeding up of this temporal process to the point where it is now visible within a single human lifetime. I mean, we're like
now I feel like there's ants on me. Man, I'm going to have to remedy this. Be right back. What the hell? This is the last thing I expected and or needed.
Kinds of change make any impression upon us whatsoever. I mean, mostly we say nothing happens. But in fact, you know, in the 20th century, it's incredible. In the last 12 months, there has been more change compressed into time than in the previous 20 years. And those 20 years had more change in them than the previous 100 years. And that 100 years had more change in it than the previous 1,000 years. And that 1,000 years had more change in it than the previous 10,000 years. But science tells us this is meaningless. This is not a real, legitimate phenomenon that you're talking about. You're just lining up facts to make it appear as though there is an attractor, to make it appear as though the human historical enterprise is about to run itself into a stone wall or off a cliff or into another dimension. And this is really the question, I think, because psychedelics are or were once described as consciousness-expanding drugs, phenomenological description, consciousness-expanding drugs. Well, if that's true, or if there's even the slimmest possibility that that's true, then we have to avail ourselves of these things because consciousness is precisely what we are starving for the lack of. And history is no longer rationally apprehendable by the systems which created it. I mean, everybody who's running around gloating over what happened to Marxist-Leninism should understand that Marxist-Leninism is traceable right back to the social contract theory of Rousseau, and that Western liberalism is traceable to the same root. And the crisis of Marxism is they just died first, that's all. But all these ideologies are on the brink of a coronary thrombosis, and we're going to have to catch the falling bodies when it hits. I mean, do you think that mercantile capitalism, which extracts the environmental reserves at an ever-accelerating rate, has any future whatsoever on this planet? I mean, they're just looting the last few $100 billion worth of stuff before they announce that everybody's going to have to go on a diet that will drop your jaw, you know. So we've come to the end of our rope. So then what do we have to do about it? Well, what we have to do is we have to look back in time and find cultural models that served in the past. And, you know, many of you who've been here before have heard me talk about what I call the archaic revival, an effort to jerk 20th century culture 180 degrees and send it right back to the value systems of the high Paleolithic, because that's the last moment that intelligence, language, religion coexisted with nature on this planet in a less than fatal arrangement. You know, from the moment that agriculture was invented, the die was cast. Because first of all, agriculture is a strategy for dumping a huge database, the database of the hunter-gatherer, and replacing it with a database that is important for only 5 or 6 species of plant. You then give up nomadism, which begins to concentrate your impact on the land into one place. You then plant these crops, and you have such success producing food that now moving anywhere is unthinkable. Plus, the big project after the fall harvest festival is now we have to build a wall to keep the starving people from stealing our surplus. So immediately there's us successful people and those people who weren't successful and who have different cultural values and who didn't produce a food surplus. So, we've decided we're going to sharpen sticks and kill all of them. So then you have warfare, thicker walls, retreat into cities, standing armies, defense of territory,
I think
class structure emerge, the notion of wealth as an abstraction, because wealth in a Aboriginal society is a sharpened stone, not your portfolio with your investments neatly listed, you see. So this is, just a pass over these themes. I know a lot of people came hundreds of miles and drove along.
I might have to wipe down my control.
I tend to whip you with this stuff. But the idea is that the psychedelics are more than the best fun there is, which they are, more than a tool for exploring your own psyche and straightening out your own kinks, which they are. They are, in fact, the key to understanding the pathology that culture has become and the way out. I mean, there has to be a way out, and it really is this archaic revival. I mean, and if you're resisting it, think of it this way. If we don't organize the archaic revival, it will be handed to us on a platter in the form of failed agriculture because the ozone hole is screwed up, infrastructures falling apart, financial systems falling apart, the rise of fundamentalist religion. In other words, we are going to have a return to a previous historical model, and it can either be managed humanely through an honoring of the feminine, an honoring of the earth, a return to the techniques of ecstasy that characterized the high Paleolithic shamanism, or it can be handed to us in the form of shortages, famines, disease, internecine warfare, nuclear proliferation, toxic dumping, so forth and so on. But one way or another, this whole edifice put in place by the Renaissance and jacked up to high speed by the European Enlightenment and delivered into this hellish climax by mathematical analysis and the rise of global technology. And remember, each of us has never seen these changes within a lifetime, and yet within the past 200 years, the world has gotten tremendously more pathological, tremendously more ill. The size of cities, the power to extract natural resources, to mine Siberia and the mountains of Chile.
Okay, for real this time, we're going to get back into Tetris and into Terrence. I feel like if anybody's watching, they've been watching this battle go down and probably want to see the outcome, but I don't care, so I'm going to... No, I'm kidding. We can watch how this plays out.
They are monitoring everything because it's not healthy. It can only be sustained through the most extraordinary and heroic means.
I'm not invested, but whatever.
The children of the future.
Any moment now.
To keep a corpse alive, and people don't find their voice.
Sometimes some pretty good brawls can go on for at least a couple minutes.
I mean, I listen to the politicos.
I've been involved in some. They're always interesting.
And they have the same problem with the vision.
All right, I got a story to read while this goes down.
So these are the things that we'll talk about this weekend, and you must steer me, or I will harangue. And it's not a pretty sight, I must tell you.
Are there legal ramifications, or do you have
legal ramifications to this plant collection in Hawaii?
Are some of the plants regulated?
Well, this is sort of a touchy area.
Oh, who won? Oh, congratulations, dude.
Out and out.
Can you
drag them away, kicking and screaming,
give them a thumbs up or anything?
Like
no.
Or something like that.
Whatever. All right, we're gonna go get into another match.
Kind of irritant
Listen
to
to
them.
some Terrence McKenna.
You would have to be a field botanist of great skill and sophistication to find anything that was a problem.
If anybody thinks anything he says is bullshit, feel free to call it out.
That have
You have
never
every right.
that are in some nebulous dimension illegal, but there's never been a test case of it, you see. Because one of the things that would be a rational reformation of the drug laws and would in fact follow the lead of English common law is to distinguish between a plant and a drug.
Pretty sure I felt an ant.
In fact, at one point,
and this is exactly what I was worried about.
The Vegetable Drug Act, which would just be simply to state that plants are not drugs. And plants cannot be illegal. You can't make a portion of nature illegal. This is crazy thinking. One of the things that I talk about in my book.
I apologize. Excuse me.
Because the groups
Jeez, I did not know what to do with that.
I found it sort of fascinating. Was, for example, in the case of opium. Most of us grow up with a completely demonized vision of the morphine family. I mean, this is the lowest of the low, and if somebody gets mixed up in junk, it's just considered, slow suicide and so forth. And it is certainly true that heroin addiction is fairly destructive and doesn't do your relationships any good and that sort of thing. But it was very interesting to
the times at which people laugh is so funny.
Writing this book to discover that opium, which has been known and used by human beings for at least 4,000 years, possibly longer, nobody ever suggested that opium was addictive until the 17th century, when the English physician John Playfair noted for the first time that exposure to opium created a craving for more opium. It had been used for 3,000 years.
I love shit like this when he starts going off and naming names and dates, and I have to wonder how accurate he really is. Like, how good is his information? Unfortunately I don't have the
until they become social
what's a good way to put it? I guess I don't have the interest, I suppose, right? I like find them mildly interesting. The thought of finding out if he's if he's talking out of his ass for some of this stuff or not, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, his overall message is the more interesting part to me.
The Amazon or the Andes, the villagers, the people you meet, they are very well aware of the cocaine problem in the United States and the DEA and all this. And the first thing they want to tell you is, coca is not a drug. It's a food. And Tim Plowman, God rest his soul, a good friend of many of us, who died a few years ago, a great field botanist, he did studies of the nutritional value of coca and discovered that, in fact, in a coca-using population, up to 30% of the vitamins and minerals in the diet are coming from coca. And it is not a social problem. It does not lead to antisocial behavior or child abandonment or violence or anything like that. It is, in fact, largely, it makes life possible in the jungle, because it gives you the energy that you must have.
I wonder how true is that,
An extremely encroaching place. And if the only tool you have to hold back the jungle is a self-sharpened machete, in the absence of coca, you would toss in the towel after a couple of weeks of struggling with this. In the presence of coca, you can settle down to a lifetime. It's a short life. You'll be dead between 35 and 40. But a lifetime of struggle struggling with the jungle. You see, one misconception that is probably important to clear up that people have about the jungle is when they see the climaxed tropical rainforest, they assume that this tremendous richness of vegetation must signal a tremendous availability of food, fruits, and things. This is not at all the case. It's very easy to starve to death in a tropical jungle. And the reason for this, especially an old tropical jungle like the Amazon, the reason for this is because evolutionary competition is so keen among species that there is no luxury to produce rich juicy
Oh
fruits
man.
loaded with sugars.
Dang it, dang it, dang it, dang it, dang it, dang it. Dang it.
Often in the
But it's okay.
Amazon, people
I'm
will
still
show
enjoying
you
myself.
what they're eating as
Let's
a
go.
treat,
Let's
something
go.
they found along
Let's
the
go.
trail. And
Let's
when
go.
you bear
Let's go.
down on what it is, it's often a fruit or something like that that has just a millimeter thin film.
Oh, I gotta read that story. Damn. Hold up.
Or something like that around it.
Let me out. Damn it. All right.
It's not a place where it's easy to get a food
I'm
supply.
listening to
So a drug like cocaine,
Terrence McKenna. He's
which
talking about
suppresses
psychedelic
appetite,
drugs and
this is the
how they
second important
and and
consequence,
humanity and
is
their
the
relationship
great
and shit like
demand.
that.
And
I find
the
it very
suppression of
interesting.
appetite, the providing of energy.
You still playing
is
Elden Ring,
made
Jim?
For this very, very harsh environment. The other thing is there are other psychoactive compounds in
Oh, and hey,
coca,
have you tried that
other
that game,
so-called
the
canes,
Chivalry?
and they mitigate
And if you have, what did you think?
the property of the
Man, this is
cocaine.
ugly. What the flip am I doing?
Western science got a hold of this
All right.
and quickly turned it into cocaine,
Okay.
which
Okay.
is
Okay.
very hard on the major muscles of
Bitch.
the heart,
All right.
highly addictive.
All right. All good. All good. All good.
And,
We're gonna do that.
a fairly
Nope. It did.
pernicious
Oh, it did count.
drug,
Wow.
although it's the monkey doing it that you usually have to wonder about. And then, in our perverse way, we go to crack cocaine, which is an even more virulent form, more easily
Okay,
delivered.
maybe I can turn that into a
And
dub.
the evolution of drug delivery systems is an interesting aspect of the whole drug problem. Hypodermic syringes were invented in the 19th century,
Oh, fudge.
just in time for the invention of morphine. And following on the heels of those two inventions were two great wars, the American Civil War and the Franco-Prussian War in Europe, happening at roughly the same time. Out of those two wars emerged the first population of hard drug addicts in Western culture. There had never been anything like that before. At the close of the Civil War, morphine addiction was called the soldier's disease because there had been so much indiscriminate use of morphine on the battlefields of the Civil War.
Can you imagine? How else could they have done that fighting? Christ, brutal. We're still just as brutal. It's terrifying.
So then, this is, to my mind, the partnership paradise of prehistory, in which the feminine was honored, men and women existed in equilibrium, child-caring was shared. Men, because of the strong upper body and different physical characteristics, were assigned the hunting, and also because women had babies clinging to them all the time and were not so mobile. So there was an early division of labor. And I think, although I wouldn't argue this to the death, but it seems reasonable to me, that women are probably the inventors of language. And for this, we can both thank them and wonder about the consequences of it. Now, why would women be the inventors of language?
Why would women?
It's because hunting is a fairly generalized concept where
you're sitting at the fire. Yeah, yes, you have. You have what, Jim?
Physical strength.
Oh, the game. You tried the game. Okay, cool. You like it? Yeah, that's awesome, man. Tell me what's it like?
Sitting stock still, waiting, And then when the moment comes, just wail on whatever it is that's running by. The position of the... Well, the gatherer is an entirely different problem, and the women took the gathering. What gathering is all about is fine distinctions. You want to be able to say, when someone says to you, where did you find these wonderful roots? You want to be able to say, they're down
a lot of blood and fighting. Oh my God.
They grow in the ground
it's
underneath
like
the plant with
it's
the
a
small
ridiculously
yellow
bloody
flowers,
game.
the serrated leaf edge with the furry underneath. In other words, it's a tremendous problem of location linguistically. And if any of you are botanists, you know that until the invention of photography, botany created a whole special language for itself called taxonomic description, where you would say, well, this plant is cespitose with crenellate leaves, and trichomes are present, and what this is an excruciatingly detailed physical description. And women also were socialized more than men because they shared child care, they spent time together in food preparation, and food preparation is part of it as well. You have to be able to not only tell where the plant came from, you have to create a linguistic machine for conveying how it is to be used. Well, I think that this partnership paradise was really the moment when human beings were most human, most at peace within and without, between men and women, between adults and children, between the human family and the environment, because we were nomadic, our populations were kept small.
Nomadic!
I think that the sexual style of these
Shot somebody with a crossbow, Jim. I gotta read that. In a second, I'm gonna take a moment here to read what you said.
Phenomenon like the pygmy chimpanzees, and then looking at sexual and social styles among Aboriginal people, like in the Amazon. And the chief thing that comes out of that is group values predominate. So consequently, the great tension that drives our society, which is the tension of
man versus
mate
man,
claiming and holding, which we call, maintaining and breaking relationships, really wasn't there. In that hunter-gatherer, quasi-nomadic situation, the natural style would have been orgiastic. And orgy has a very interesting social consequence. It makes it impossible for men to trace lines of male paternity. This is very important. In other words, the children in an orgiastic society are society's children. Women know who their children are because they see them come out of their bodies, and unless they put them down and forget where they put them, they will always be able to go back to their children. Because the sex act and the fact of birth are separated by 9 months, it took a long, long time for the role of the specific male to dawn on these societies. Once male paternity becomes an issue, there's tremendous tension, because the orgiastic style is appealing on one level to everybody, I think. But on another level, if you're concerned about male paternity, you want to suppress orgy. You want to control women. And in fact, you begin to think of them as my women and your women, and I have nothing to do with your women, and you have nothing to do with my women. So women become a source of great anxiety in this situation. Well, now this is, I want to make it clear, this is not to say that we fell from grace, from a state of grace that was laid on to us by nature, because the style of all monkeys is male dominance. Even if you go back to the primitive primates, the squirrel
That's not
monkeys
exactly
and
true
like
from what
that,
I've been reading
male
recently.
dominance hierarchies are always
But maybe
what's
that's what they thought at the
happening.
time,
So
you know?
I think that the admission of
And I don't think that
psilocybin into the
detracts from his overall
proto-hominid
point
diet
either. If it
actually
does, perhaps
corrected,
I've
if you
overlooked
wanted
it,
to
but
use that word,
it'll dawn on me
corrected
eventually if it did.
a social
I hope.
style that had been present in the monkeys for millions of years. And just for maybe 50 or 100,000 years, the tendency to form male dominance hierarchies was suppressed.
What? No way. Dude. You gotta be kidding me. I won. I got one. Hell yeah. I did not expect that to happen. Fucking hey. What a way to come back.
Broke up this partnership paradise because
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate that very much. You're sitting at a fire in Elden Ring. There's a lot of blood and fighting in the game, right? You shot somebody with a big crossbow. Nice. That was fun. It sounds fun. He went across the map. Damn. Oh, that sounds cool. What are you doing in Elden Ring, though? You're just sitting by the fire? Is that fun? Equinoctial. Boom, ba-boom, boom, ba-boom, boom. I think maybe I'm going to try to get another win in Tetris, and then I'll switch. Or I think I might order some food. And, oh, you're watching me. Cool, thanks. That's why I won, because you were watching. Somewhere in my mind, I felt it. And it gave me the wind beneath my wings. Thank you, Jim. I appreciate that. This round of applause is for you, sir. Here we go.
Unless you have hermetically sealed peanut butter jars and Ziploc baggies and stuff which we presume they didn't have. So then your only choice is some method of preservation. And what I see in the archaeology of the ancient Near East is a supplanting of the mushroom cult by a cult of honey. And honey is a very excellent antiseptic preserving medium. And in many cultures, it's used that way. In Mexico to this day, in the Mexican Indian villages,
I don't know if this is true.
And stir them into honey, and then they can preserve them.
May very well be. Maybe it was then and isn't now. I don't know.
There's a problem here, though, which is that honey itself can become.
He has many theories like this, which, you know, I mean, I feel like he does justice with his explanations. You know, I don't know. I think these kind of ideas are still very new in my mind as well. So I could be way off. I don't know what the zeitgeist looks like these days. So yeah, who the fuck knows? I sure as hell don't.
Linguistic skill and a lowering of sensitivity to social cueing. You see this in any singles bar, you know. The guys become boorish. They hit on the women because now finally they have the courage to hit on the women. And the whole thing gives rise to the fairly unhappy cultural situation of which we're the heirs. I mean, most women, I don't know how true it is of the women in this room under 30, but most women, their early sexual imprinting goes on in an ambiance of alcohol use and abuse. And that's then lifelong because, you know, it steels one's nerves for love and battle. This is what was, or love or battle. This is what was always said about alcohol. So the women who were the gatherers of this hunting and gathering equation, essentially they were too smart. They outsmarted themselves. They had this enormous database
Smarted themselves.
Wild plants and plants that could be gathered in the environment. And they were nomads. And what nomadism means in this African context is that you follow the great herds of cattle around on a yearly cycle as they move from waterhole to waterhole. And you camp for a few weeks, and then you move on following the herds. The problem with this is in the discard of these camps, in the middens of these camps, there would inevitably be seeds discarded as waste. Well, at a certain point, women noticed that the middens, the dumps of last year's camp, was a great place to find food because it seemed to concentrate in those places. And it was because the seeds were being discarded there. So at some point, a Lady Einstein of the High Paleolithic put it together. And it's interesting, this has to do with the conquest of the temporal dimension in terms of cause and effect. In other words, at the same time that the guys were figuring out, oh, if you have sex with this woman, then 9 months later there will be a child. The women were figuring out, oh, if we throw food away here and bury it, 12 months later there will be food growing on this very spot. Well, at that point, this huge database of information on plants that could be gathered was dumped. And the women said, we don't have to do that anymore. Let's just take what we know about emmer wheat, rye, oats, and a couple of other cereal grains, and we will grow those, and we don't have to gather anymore. Or gathering can decline in importance tremendously. But in order to care for the emmer wheat and the rye and the oats, the sedentary lifestyle displaced the nomadic lifestyle. And I talked a little bit last night about the consequences of the invention of agriculture. The first consequence was surplus, something the human race had never dealt with before, because in the hunter-gatherer situation, once you've gathered enough, you stop working. Agriculture is a process where you sort of push a button, and lo and behold, here comes abundance. More abundance than you know what to do with. So you have a new problem. The problem is not getting enough food. Now the problem is preserving it and defending it. And both of these problems can be solved by ceasing to wander and beginning to build walls. And so this is what was done. The most advanced structure, human structure on this planet 10,000 years ago was the grain tower at Jericho.
I wonder if that's
and
true.
It was specifically built for agricultural surplus, and it was built with walls around it to defend itself. Around 10 to 11,000 years ago, in the archaeological record, all across Europe, the ancient Middle East, and North Africa, we get the appearance of what's called the Tanged Point Technocomplex.
All right.
What this means is in older strata than the strata of the Tanged Point Technocomplex, when you find an arrowhead, you find one arrowhead. It was lost by some Paleolithic hunter in the pursuit of game. 12,000 years ago, what you suddenly find are huge concentrations of arrowheads in one place. This means these are not hunting sites. These are sites where somebody laid siege to somebody else's scene in order to grab their women and their food supply and their animals. In other words, warfare is the natural consequence of agriculture. And the pattern that we see in the ancient Middle East.
Heck yeah. You don't know what to say about it. I had friends die from it. From
suppression of women,
what, Jim?
Slavery.
Oh, third place. Nice. That's not bad. I guess top 3, I can give myself a round of applause. Now, I'm going to look at a couple things. I got to read a story. Oh yeah. I loved it, and Rebecca was great. Cool.
What you're saying is that really once the first woman or group of women, whoever it was, made this temporal connection
So
and saw
okay,
that
I gotta
when
read
the
this to
shit sees out
myself.
or whatever happens, 12 months later there's more food. We don't have to wander around so much. Once the die was cast, for McDonald's, the military-industrial complex, in effect, and that once some tribe or groups of people have a lot more than they can use, and it's there, then it
Glenda had a
becomes
really funny
tempting
dream.
and in a way adaptive for other people to say, why wander around out here, screw around, let's just go kill these people and take their shit, and that's a lot easier.
Right.
Now, and also what you're saying is
All
that
right,
you
now
might
back
notice that this is
cocaine.
fucked
Oh
up
yeah,
also.
okay, yeah. I don't do cocaine, man. Yeah, it's
And the
not
other
not my
thing
not
that I'm
my scene.
saying is,
I'm not sure. Did he
although
mention
I
cocaine?
mean, to me,
'Cause
that seems to be an important
that'd
point.
be
In other words, there was
because
a
he was probably
nature
trying to do some kind of
and
comparison. He
element
talks
and
about all
cultural
types of stuff.
development that happened over a
Oh,
lot of
what do I want
time.
to eat tonight, Jim?
So
Dude, hey,
we
dude,
kind of
give me an
nobody
idea,
wants to
Jim. What do I
admit
order, man? I'm hungry,
that this was bad.
but I'm not sure what
and
to
it was
get.
driven
I need
by
I need a
what?
good
It was driven by the fact that
I
there
need
was
a
a
good
change
fucking
on, and people were trying to find a solution
recommendation,
to the
please.
drying problem.
Cocaine? No, thank you.
They,
I got killed by laser blast. That's so fucking lame, man.
These other people won't be trying to kill us.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
right,
laser blast. That
well,
was
they
mean.
conceive of how to return
You bested
to the
me.
nomadic style. And of
And your
course,
name
once
is
people
okay.
started
Have I had
agriculture,
Chinese?
then
Are you
in
asking
some
me have I
cases to
ever
be a
had Chinese,
nomad meant
Jim?
you would
Yeah,
have
of
to
course.
move through these people's
I've had
areas
Chinese.
and their fields, and then they would be waiting for you with rocks and clubs because they don't want your herds tromping through their
This
fields.
week,
But
maybe
the
as
most key factor,
leftovers.
which
Does that
straight
count? I think I had
anthropology
some Chinese
doesn't
leftovers.
acknowledge, is
Does that
that the
count? You
slow
know?
fading of the use of psilocybin is what permitted all of this, because
Let me know if that counts.
the
Somewhat.
boundary
Okay.
dissolving
So tell me, give me
quality
some
of
more guidance, please.
psilocybin is the most important quality, and
I know you know your
it
foods,
changed
man.
us
You
from
told me about the stuff you
monkeys
like,
into
biscuits and
these
gravy, you know?
shamanic,
You know good stuff,
feminine
I can
honoring,
tell.
goddess worshipping nomadic people. And then when it began to fade, the reassertion of these older primate patterns, the reestablishment of male
Okay,
dominance over
dang.
women,
I was
and so
getting a
forth,
little,
there
you
was
know.
nothing to stop it. So I
I
really
was
see
getting the yips
psilocybin as a
just a
kind
bit.
of
Not sure
inoculation
why, but
against primate,
I'll be honest
the
about it.
primate nature, that before the first moment of human history, the human being had been perfected, and by that I mean human beings means people able to express affection and care for others, people filled with a sense of group cooperation and group destiny, and so forth and so on, and that really we should see psilocybin as an inoculation against the formation of ego. Ego is the psychic component, which is the fly in the soup.
I'm with this right here. What he's talking here is pure
It's a
fucking. That shit is
maladaptive
legit. If you've ever had psilocybin, that
attitude
fucking.
which changing conditions
He
made
is
into an adaptive
defining that
attitude.
shit.
It went from
At
being
least
a
my
form of
experience, you know.
pathology
I
to
know others
being
who
the only
haven't said
game in
that have said it's
town
cool, but you
as
know
the nature
that it
of
didn't
the
really blow their minds.
situation
And I wonder if it's
changed.
a dosage
Ego
thing, just a
is
difference in
dissolved by
people's physiology.
hallucinogens, and so the
Fucking
hallucinogens
a,
kept this
Meg,
egoless
what up?
society
Oh
in a
man, a round
kind of
of
stasis
applause
for a
for
long,
Meg.
long time. But when the presence of the
Thanks for
mushroom
stopping by,
weakened
champ.
and disappeared,
Meg, one of the
then
best
these
Tetris
older
players that I
primate
know.
patterns flowed in
By the way,
and
what up with ya?
dominated the situation. In the story
How
of
you been, Meg?
in the story of Adam and Eve in
Oh, and I'm
Genesis,
gonna lose, so
you
don't judge me,
essentially get
please.
this message, except it's told from
This
a
is a
dominator
judgment-free zone.
point of view. I mean, a careful reading
Criminy.
of Genesis
Come
will
on.
show this
Oh
is the
shit.
story of history's first drug bust.
Oh
And
bitch.
it's a woman who's
Nope.
in
Nope.
trouble.
Nope. Am I
What
done?
she
Am I done?
does
Am I
is
done? I'm done.
she
Oh
eats the
fuck. Oh
forbidden
shit.
fruit.
Oh, you
It's
gotta be
forbidden to
kidding me.
her by a
How?
male,
Nah.
by Yahweh.
No.
And
No, no, it's not happening.
And
Oh, oh my God, are you kidding me right now? Are you kidding me?
If you read in the older
Oh
recensions,
shit,
like
oh
the Q
shit.
document,
They gave me too many chances,
it's very
man.
clear. It says that their eyes
Oh,
were open.
oh no, damn it.
The issue is not that this is a poisonous plant.
You are. I'm doing very well, Meg. You know, I'm healthy. I'm employed. I'm super fucking high right now, but life is good. You know, I can't complain. I got it better than a lot of people. Times are kind of crazy. So I hope you're doing well as well. You know, how about you? How you doing? Other than being rusty at Tetris. How you been? You staying sane? You know, keeping busy, experiencing growth as a human being. I hope. Shouldn't we all? I'm gonna start up another match because I can't go out on 56. But fuck, I gotta order some food too. Jim, what'd you say? Homemade sausage, cheese, and biscuits. I should get that. Is that what I should get? Homemade sausage, cheese, and biscuits? Because I will. You said you're just recovering from a broken toe foot, keeping busy with work up until that happened. Oh no. Oh, so your broken toe foot is keeping you from working? That's unfortunate. I'm sorry to hear that. What, were you going a little too hard on the pitch? That's what they call a soccer field over there, right? And you were supposed to go to Spain for what, like vacation? If that's vacation, that's awesome. I'm sorry that got canceled. That fucking sucks. I've been flying a ton myself, just domestically though, in the good old US of A. But I have my passport now and am ready to fly internationally eventually. Which I think I've done before once when I was still in the service, but I can't really remember, so it doesn't really count, right?
They're reproduced in my book here. So I think part of what is happening in the
oh no, I think I just read something about surgery. Ah, shit.
Into deep time, and we're discovering our own childhood, and what we're discovering.
Let me get to a safer spot. You have to have surgery if it doesn't heal properly. You fell in the bathroom. No exciting story. Aw. Listen, I'm willing to tell people a better story if you want. I'll make it sound glorious.
Because we, every single one of us, are the victims of a
that sucks, though.
Relationship and a trauma that
I need to
in the childhood of our
make sure I'm careful. I get little tweaks in my back every now and then just because I'm of that age. Or I'm approaching, you know. So I can't be as carefree with my joints and ligaments as I once was. So yeah, getting hurt fucking sucks. And I hope you heal very quickly. Building walled cities, establishing the mythology of kingship, slave classes, so does Jim. So forth and so on. And this is why Yeah, I did. I learned how to T-spin. I mean, I'm kind of rusty right now. I got a win earlier. My first in a while. I haven't touched this game in months, Megs. How long has it been since you played?
For about 7,000 or 8,000 years, depending on how you want to measure it. And
I think I mentioned right before you got here how you, I was thinking I had you in mind that I was saying how people that I met, friends I'd made on Twitch inspired me to learn T-spins. So thanks again.
Because of our maladaption to being, we don't know how to behave. Yeah, Paul.
You played a little the other day. Were you able to get a Maximus? I had read something that had me a little worried about the numbers in Tetris, you know, in Tetris 99. And maybe like that it was dying down and was gonna cease to be a thing, or maybe just how I interpreted it. But so I was a little anxious when I was logging in today, but it seems like it's still pretty chill. And I guess, you know, if I want to keep it around, I should play it more often. So I think I might, you know, knock off the rust, maybe see if I can learn some new tricks. Because old dogs can, believe it or not. I don't know what you've heard,
conclusion was it
But
had
they
to
can.
be human beings.
Learn new tricks.
They had been through many cycles of ice ages. Why should they?
Have I played Tetris Effect? Yeah, I've played it. Not recently, but I played it, and I love that fucking game,
Very
Megs.
early, you begin
And have you, and what's your
trying
experience
to
with it?
impact on the earth.
To be like frank, maybe a little embarrassing, but I cried. That game made me cry. That game is fucking beautiful. It is gorgeous.
You mean a different way to do it?
That fucking Together song, oh my god, dude.
Nobody's ever asked me that question.
You know what I'm saying? That shit is amazing. Like fucking
You mean
props to those motherfuckers that made that. Holy shit. What a fucking work. That is what humanity is about. That is what being human is about. Getting together and making shit that fucking beautiful. That's it. Oh my god, that game is fucking amazing. I'm gonna have to play it now again. Thanks for reminding me.
well, I think what we have to do is
Every once in a while, I find some passion. It's in there. It's way in the back these days, just because of how everything's going down and having to protect myself. But sometimes,
question, and I think that the answer. I mean, why do we take
Thank
bad
you.
drugs? Let's ask that.
Yeah.
question.
If
I
you
think
ever want to
it's
snipe,
because
just let me know. I'll
we
try to set it up. I haven't
want
done it
to
in a while, but I
scratch
think I can
certain
figure it out
itch,
again.
and we can't figure out how to get at it. And so,
Or if you ever want to team up
be
on
addicted to sex,
some
to drugs, to having
Tetris
the
Effect,
morning
because they have
paper
that
delivered
team
on
mode, don't
time.
they?
I mean,
We can try to get somewhere.
I'm threatened with falling into a hysterical rage if I get up
And don't worry, we don't gotta listen to this the whole time.
I mean, I have to consciously take hold of myself and
Word,
say, you're
cool.
not gonna die.
A tentative
You have to drive into town and buy a dozen
Tetraton,
eggs. Don't let it
thon,
spoil
whatever.
your entire
Fuck.
day.
Come on.
The
Get in there.
question about a protocol for men and women, I think it is true that men have more of a problem
Oh,
with
fuck.
drugs
Oh, no. Damn it.
and more
That wasn't
of a
it.
problem,
You have a friend who could join? Hell yeah.
it's because they have more of a problem
You're not
with
home. The airline put you up in a hotel. You gotta leave for the airport again soon. Oh, okay, cool. Well, you're still chicken wings or stromboli. All right, you're saying in gym, just give me like a capital big yes if this is what you're saying I should order. Chicken wings or stromboli. That's what you're saying I should order. And yes, your friend can join too. Hell yeah, the more the merrier. Jordan. Fuck yeah. That'd be dope. What else have you been up to? What have you been streaming? I think I've seen you go live a few times. I haven't had the time to work. It's been keeping me busy to join. But streaming Smash Brothers very often, and maybe one other thing, but I can't remember right now because my brain is fucking mush lately. In a good way though. It's malleable. It's pliable. I'm trying to learn stuff. Just mainly Smash. Did Final Fantasy 14? Yes, that was the one. Final Fantasy 14. That is the MMO one, right? I apologize if I'm messing that up and it's completely wrong what I just said, but I feel like that was it. Yes? Oh, okay. You've been really inconsistent. I feel like fuck, man. Yo, Megs, I feel like that's like the theme of life right now. Inconsistency. Yeah, tell me about it. I thought that too until I played Destiny. And I had to break myself away from that curse, which I'm kind of happy about now because I'm playing more like fucking. Shit, I want to play because that game was a bit of a grind sometimes. But every once in a while, it's cool to get into some shit like that, especially if you're doing it with friends. That kind of thing can be really fun. Like I'm going through Elden Ring on 2 different platforms right now, on PC and Xbox because it's a great game and I'm enjoying it, so I'm playing the fuck out of it.
Late stage in the game, everybody has to do work on this problem because we have made ego such a cultural value. Now, the reason men may have stronger egos
it's nice to mix things up indeed.
Goes back, I think, to that hunting gathering dichotomy.
What else is up? How are your birds doing? Right, you got birds.
Would go.
Sorry if that's very specific and odd, but I don't know why I just remembered your bird all of a sudden. At least one. I don't know if you have multiple.
About the chatter of the women. Women do chatter as the masters of language.
All right, please remind me to order. Make sure I put in the order.
This kind of communication.
After this match, win or lose.
Talk to each other. You know, I mean, it's very
so I can
rare.
get my food at some point this evening.
If in your life you were repeatedly, over and over again, told.
I do not like putting the burden on people at the last minute. You know, people who put it in online orders. Oh, we're closing in 10 minutes. Throw an order in there. I don't really like being that person.
At evening, and then you make the kill. I've been in that situation because I was forced through these male initiations in the meathead society I grew up in, and if you're a 10-year-old, 14-year-old kid, and they set you up on what they call a point, a hunting point, they give you a gun and they set you up on a point and they say, wait here 5 hours. The major struggle is to not become. To not be dissolved into the environment, to not become frightened, or it's called Wendigo psychosis, you know. It's to hold the wilderness at bay. And so you have to have rituals of ego empowerment to do that. And the hunter is the exemplar of ego personified. So I think just these different cultural styles made men more egotistical, and also they
you got it, Mags. I'll hit you up for some of that effect for sure. Have a good trip. Enjoy yourself, or you know, if it's a work thing, I don't know if you said. Hope it's successful. And you as well, just in general. So, but yeah, thanks for stopping by. It was great to chat with you. I'm glad you're doing well. Good people doing well in 2022. That's the vibe. 2022, yeah, 2022. That's the vibe. And for bad people to do better. Oh, vacation, cool. Peace out. Enjoy yourself.
Big houses and many cars and tremendous comfort. And we do not have group values. The reason the planet is
we don't have group values, my man.
We cannot place the good of the group above our own desires.
We can't. We can't. Sometimes, very, very infrequently.
You know,
what is wrong with us?
Has made a voluntary act of simplification of their life or something like that. We're aware of the problem, but we can't. Some do. But a vanishingly small amount compared to the people who are just out there striving like crazy to get theirs. And sadly, the dissolution of communism, which certainly had its problems, they're there for everybody to see, but the rhetoric of communism was collectivism.
Oh, shit.
You know, care for the collectivity. In the absence of anybody saying that, now we just have a dog-eat-dog world, and the devil take the hindmost, and it looks like the devil will take the hindmost.
Problems with ego is that it's one of those words that mean all things to all people, and I think we need to say that even in the societies where mushrooms were plentiful and boundary dissolution.
I wonder if he ever hears a question and he finds it absurd, if he just like glosses over it with his own question. It's something that feels like he does, like masterfully, I gotta say. You know, he segues well, or ties some things together very like loosely, but I guess it works. But yeah. Oh no! Damn it!
Well, I think our
your dad said to order Wheaties and some milk. Okay. But you said though. Chicken wings are stromboli, and also chicken. Okay, well, tell your dad that I have some Raisin Bran here and milk. Will that do, or do I have to get Wheaties? Let me know. Because I will if I have to. You send me a picture, Jim? What'd you send me a picture of? All right, let's find a place that does stromboli, like usually pizza places, right? And chicken wings very often. There's nothing like more satisfying than finding a good pizza place that does not good pizza and wings really well. That's rare and dope. Dope. Beverly Pizza has a 4.6 rating. Let's see. East Coast Enzo's 4.7. Propolis. I don't know why Beverly sounds good. I think I had it. Oh, their meatball parm was probably fire. Their number one most liked thing is soda. Come on, dude. That's algorithm. Bad. Bad algorithm. Number 3 is potato skins. Which, I guess they're alright, actually. Maybe I should. No, you said chicken wings or stromboli. Okay. They got buffalo wings. Let me keep looking. I'm gonna see if they got stromboli. Garlic bread, French fries. Are you playing Nintendo? Yeah, Jim, I'm on the Nintendo. That's where I play Tetris 99. I don't know where else you can. There might be other places. I don't know. All right, it says Stromboli. They got burgers. Burrito. Calzones? Oh, calzone is not the same as Stromboli, right?
And he says to Ahab, Captain, to seek revenge on a dumb brute seems blasphemy.
Oh, here we go. Chicken penne pesto, tortellini alla creme pasta, chicken fettuccine pasta, baked 4-cheese spaghetti, baked 4-cheese fettuccine, fettuccine carbonara, chicken parmesan pasta, lasagna, shrimp linguine, tortellini special pasta, chicken marsala, pesto linguine, beef ravioli pasta. Those are all the things, dude. Those are all the things, bro. Any of those? Different what? Different what, Jim? Should I look for stromboli? Is that really important?
Whatever they do for us in our personal lives, as a societal force,
let me see if maybe I just type in stromboli. Like in the search, you know?
Why is it so wonderful to dissolve the ego?
Stromboli. I spelled it right. Cool. Search, baby, search. 7-Eleven. Wow. Albertsons. Great. Safeway. I don't think there. Yeah, man. I don't think there's a stromboli nearby. Anything? Oh man, you're not really helping, Jim.
Intelligence, which seems to be distributed through nature.
Oh man, what do I want? Maybe I do want pasta.
Because you don't know what else to call it. If you're a woman in touch with what that means, you will call it Gaia.
I think so.
If you're an aspiring shaman,
ooh, it comes with a salad, which I'm digging.
The spirit helpers.
Getting that with that Caesar. Pasta addition. Oh, should I go with the meatball? Meatball and chicken? Pack it with protein? Meatball, chicken. Cool. Oh, this is gonna be good. And then, man, should I get something else to go with it? No, because it comes with a salad and bread, right? They show bread in the picture, so I hope it's gonna come with it. Does that work, Jim? What I just said? Is that cool? I think that sounds good to me.
To realize that it is not that the earth is alive, it's that the earth is intelligent. The earth is some kind of mind.
No, I don't think so. But hey, I'm so hungry that I'm gonna order this, so I appreciate the input, but this is happening. Give the highest tip recommended, because that's what you should do for these.
That's the miracle. A planet is a very large system.
Soldiers, really. Delivering our food with as crazy as things are nowadays. Letting strangers into my car sounds like a terrifying decision to make. Like Uber drivers, God bless them, and Lyft, because I use them for work very often. Thank you. A godsend, right? Some are better than others, but it's still cool that somebody's willing to, do that as a job. But anyway, God damn it, I was going somewhere with that. Oh yeah, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do that job right now because I would be very anxious about letting random strangers into my vehicle behind me. Just the way things are nowadays, I don't feel safe. I don't know. I ordered. I'll tell you in a second, Jim. I will tell you in a sec, man. All right.
Shamanic and Aboriginal societies, and what stabilized those Paleolithic societies was this direct pipeline to the mind of the goddess. And it told human beings
He just said shit
how to behave
in a roundabout way. Shit.
How to live. Isn't this what they're always, what Castaneda is claiming for psychedelics?
Fudge.
They show you the right way to live. And in the absence of this connection, you can't figure it out. You can sort of figure it out, but we have lost touch with our mentor. We were literally wrenched from the teaching breast of the Gaian mother too soon. And so we became dysfunctional, turned to warfare, city building, resource extraction, and propaganda.
Terrence, can you tie in you were talking about...
I'm trying to remember what I ordered now, Jim, and I'm finding it extremely difficult. But let's see if I can do this. I ordered a certain type of pasta, maybe a carbonara, and I could be very wrong there. I don't know.
Ego or shared experience through an evolving brain. The mushroom that sounded like you were talking about was the triggering, was a catalyst for that.
Well, I think what the mushroom is the catalyst for is language. You see, language is a very mysterious activity. In all of nature, if you were to look for the thumbprint of God, this is the best candidate. Language represents a fundamental break with all other forms of natural organization. And, there may be people here who are fond of the mumblings of dolphins.
It's all right.
There is communication in the natural
All right,
world.
they've confirmed my order, and it was, let's see, Jim, I'll tell you right now.
To Paradise Lost or Hamlet.
Because I really can't remember it. Chicken penne pesto pasta. Chicken penne pasta. Chicken penne pesto pasta. Okay. And then I think I added meatballs to it and maybe extra chicken by mistake. But hey, if it's packed with protein, it's cool. I probably won't finish it, and we'll have leftovers for mañana. That means tomorrow, Jim. I bet you probably knew that.
San Francisco is an idea. The United States is an idea. Means they are things which begin originally in the domain of language, and then we draw them down.
All right. 70. Damn, I didn't even get a cool number like 69.
The fact that
I'm glad you could help. Yeah, Jim, you're the man, dude. Thank you. Tell your dad I said thank you to, and that I hope my choice of Raisin Bran pleases him. Because it's still healthy.
Chomsky and his school has spent a lot of time trying to understand this.
And we got to live a long life if we're going to figure this life stuff out, man. It takes time, dude. We're trying to break down these walls of reality and figure out what's really going on here through dialogue with each other and listening. Because we really don't know, man. Life is a trip, and it's weird, and it's fucking dope, and man.
It causes what's called
far out, dude.
Speaking in tongues.
Couldn't imagine anything more gnarly, It baffles the mind. Who thought this up? Why? For what purpose?
It means you've got words, you've got declension, you've
He
got
laughed.
grammar, but you just didn't bother to have meaning. And I think that we tend to believe language is for the conveyance of meaning. But I think that's just because we came late to thinking about the problem. Obviously, it seems to me, people were indulging in language-like activity for a long, long time before there was meaning. It was a form of entertainment. It's a form of amusement. It's something people did
Oh, you know, I'd
around
like
the
to get an
fire
all
at
clear
night
this evening.
for each other.
But of course, just
All,
doing well is
the
a
original
blessing.
languages were all
But I really dig
abstract.
all clears.
The
They're so cool.
marriage of language to naive realism
Here we go.
is probably less than 15,000 years old and has to do with agriculture and the rise of all this other stuff. Yeah.
Is that what you were doing at the end of the experiment at Petaluma?
Oh, you mean that funny stuff? Yes. The ning my waxi kipitot vidi kipitak ne da haxi kipiping. See how there's emotion.
That is funny as fuck.
There's intentionality and there's anticipation, but there's no meaning. Meaning is just the cherry on the cake. It comes very, very late.
Cherry cake.
In that process.
That sounds delicious.
And one of the strange things
should I get that for dessert? That's a sign.
Is our absence of an emotional vocabulary. You know, we have 10,000 words to describe the process of binding a book, for crying out loud. But when it gets down to emotion, we have, you know, I love you, I hate you, and I'm not sure. And yet, if you pay attention to your mind, the subtlest and most kaleidoscopic dimension of your being is the shifting screen of your emotions. And yet we can convey only the tiniest part of that to each other.
Fucking
a place like Esalen is built on trying to open the valve to emotional language so that people can say what they feel. Most people, including myself, I'm sure, have not the clue as to how you begin to say what you feel.
He's right.
The psychedelic experience is a good place.
It's almost
to
impossible to really
feelings are so unusual.
Really deeply explain yourself to anybody else.
To language them without feeling.
Thus is the mind, you know. We only understand it so much.
Being. But when you start talking to
I wonder if we'll ever get there, the full understanding of each other. How wild would that be? What would that look like?
Let me count the ways.
Huh.
To say to someone, how do I love thee, let me count the ways, and then to actually try to compose your own list in real time, it's too, quote unquote, embarrassing, whatever that means. It means we don't want to go that way. We want to mask ourselves. We feel reluctance to push in to that domain. One of the, and I assume this is because this was what happened to language. Well, no, it may have always been that way. It is a thing of surfaces. I mean, it's tremendously easy to use language to describe a plant. Very hard to use it to describe a mood. Maybe this is because you can eat plants and not moods. And so it's ultimately a tool, a survival skill. But our poetry, our art, the places where we rise toward the perfection of our humanness are usually in the domain of language married to emotion, you see. Yeah.
Question about the place of pecking order in all this that you're talking about. In most animals, you see a pecking order emergence. And my feeling from my own experiments is that
from experiments. I like how vague that is. Oh, man. And that's why I wish, like, you know, what they talk about for us to understand each other very clearly. That would be so dope. Because then I can know what he's talking about and not be a dick and laugh because he might be burying a soul. But it sounds silly to me because I don't understand. Oh, shit. Pardon my French. Hey, no. Don't, please, don't kill me. Yeah, I am too young to die. Damn it. All right, Jim. See you, my friend. Thanks for hanging. Tell your folks I said, hey. Well, I guess our folks, since I got adopted. Oh, I gotta see what kind of picture he sent me. What'd I get? 18? Man.
Your you're quite right. The
Barely
scenario
legal.
you
Let's
sketch
go again.
out is what's called the Grand Inquisitor scenario. You all remember
Cooking
in the Brothers
instructions,
Karamazov,
sausage. Oh, you
the
send me.
story
Oh, okay.
that
Yeah, I'm not gonna cook it, Jim. I'm gonna order it if I can. It's just not gonna happen.
Christ miraculously
Unfortunately don't have the time
appears
to cook that
on
much
earth,
these days.
and
Sometimes when I get like a
he
long
goes to visit
weekend,
the Grand
I'll go
Inquisitor,
buy some ingredients
and
to
then
cook at
this
least breakfast for myself
confrontation
for the
takes
weekend,
place
for the
between
long
them,
weekend.
and the Inquisitor
But not
and
much more than
Christ
that.
says,
I'm
"Do
just
you,
trying to
do you
eat healthy,
know
but
who I am?" And
I
the
let myself
Inquisitor says,
today,
"Yes,
one day,
I know
to
who you are.
loosen it a
We
bit.
don't want it. We've got it worked
But it's
out.
tough when you're on the road all the
We don't
time.
need Galilean troublemakers. We've moved beyond that stage, and
Okay, let's focus.
this is a similar
It'd be
sort
cool
of
if we could get one more
situation,
dub
I
before the
think.
food gets here, because then I'm gonna eat and probably start playing with Jim.
It's a long slide from
Whatever he wants to play.
shamanism into priestcraft. And the way it happens, I think, is when the psychedelic becomes no longer accessible or understood, then priestcraft gets going with a vengeance. There's always a tendency or a tension in religion between the irrational force of revelation and the desire to institutionally organize. Early Christianity was victim of this. For the first 120 years after the crucifixion, Christians were useless to anybody because they just stood around waiting for the end of the world. And then after 120 years of this, some people, Tertullian, Origen, Justinian, that crowd, said, shouldn't we be investing in real estate and getting a little something together here? This waiting for the end of the world, hell, who knows, And so then the institutionalized church sprang into being. Another place in cultural history where this happened is in the mystery that surrounds Soma. Soma was some kind of psychedelic plant. Nobody knows for sure what it was, but the whole of the Rig Veda, which is the earliest stratum of the Hindu literature, the whole of the Rig Veda is hymns to Soma. These incredibly extravagant praise for this intoxicant of some sort, which the people were using. Well, if it was so wonderful, how could it ever be lost? How could you ever lose? It would be like our civilization losing the secret of how to make Coca-Cola. It's almost impossible to imagine an upheaval so thoroughgoing that we would forget how to make Coca-Cola. And so then we would collect Coke bottles and say, this represents the vanished sacrament, if only we knew. The only way you can lose a secret with that kind of cultural import is if prior to the loss of it, knowledge of it has been restricted.
What they want. It's the same with pups and
knowledge got restricted right there. They cut that out. Oh no, it's still a conspiracy.
For humans.
Dun, dun, dun.
I think the humans
who
got a little bit on top decided that this was not a good thing for others to have.
Well, what I'm saying is it would only be true in the case of humans if they were using psilocybin. In other words, in the absence of psilocybin, human beings will behave like kittens, calves, and pups, but that psilocybin actually erodes the ego. And this is what's put against a lot of psychedelics.
Very true.
They say, well, the guy won't, these stoners, they don't punch the time clock. And when you threaten to fire them, it seems to have no effect on them. I don't know how you reach these people. Well, the way you reach them is you appeal to something other than the ego. The modern industrial civilization has very skillfully promoted certain drugs and suppressed others. A perfect example is caffeine. Caffeine I hate to tell you this, caffeine is a fairly dangerous drug. It isn't dangerous in that a cup of coffee will kill you, but a lifestyle built around caffeine is not going to, you're not going to live to be 100 years old, or even 70, unless you are statistically in the improbable
I don't know how true
group.
that is. Like
Why
what the
is
numbers say
caffeine
now.
not only tolerated but
Should
exalted?
look that up.
Because, boy, you can spin those widgets on.
But his argument still makes sense about why caffeine is one of the chosen ones, either by design,
It is the perfect drug,
like one of the
for
legit
modern
drugs in our
industrial
society, you know, that you don't got to worry about
Why
getting
do you
busted
think
with.
caffeine,
Because
a
it does
dangerous,
change your mood.
health-destroying, destructive
You
drug
know?
that has to be brought from the ends of the earth, is enshrined in every labor contract in the Western world as a right. The coffee break, if somebody tried to take away the coffee
Somebody
break,
was enjoying that joke a lot.
the masses
That's cool.
would rise in righteous fury and pull them down. We don't have a beer break. We don't have a pot break. I mean, if you suggested, well, we don't want a coffee break. We want to be able to smoke a joint at 11 in the morning. They would say, well, you're just some kind of, you're a social degenerate, a troublemaker, a mad dog, a criminal. It would be, and yet the
I wonder if there's somebody who would still use those terms nowadays, because I would love that.
There's no comparison. Obviously, pot would be the better choice. The problem is then you're going to be standing there dreaming rather than spinning the widgets onto the nuts.
Is correct.
Coca leaves? Sure.
Coca leaves would be very good. I suspect in the future we may see the legalization of coca as a sop to the mentality that wishes to see cocaine. Andy Wilde, who's a good friend of mine, we don't agree on everything, but a few years ago he had great enthusiasm for a coca
he wanted to make that very clear. We don't agree on everything.
And I never got on the bandwagon because I didn't see that we needed another high-focus industrial stimulant on the market. But coca would be great, and certainly in the Amazon, if you're a patron, you encourage your workers to chew coca. I mean, they're worthless without coca. Give them coca and put a machete in their hands, and they will just flail for hours at the bush. Another example.
That's so euphemistic, it's ridiculous.
Shows how blinded and unaware we are of how drugs have shaped our society.
Shit.
We all know that slavery ended in the United States in the Civil War. And most people, if you question them, think that slavery existed before the Civil War in many places back into ancient times. This is not true at all. Slavery died in Western civilization with the collapse of the Roman Empire. During the Dark Ages and the medieval period, if you owned a slave, you owned one slave. It was the equivalent of owning a Ferrari or a Lamborghini. It was an index of immense wealth and social status. And that slave would be a house boy or a cook or something like that, someone close into you, taking care of you. It was inconceivable to use slave labor in the production of an agricultural product until Europe acquired an insatiable desire for sugar. And now let's think about sugar for a moment. Nobody needs sugar. You can go from birth to the grave without ever having a teaspoonful of white sugar. You will never miss it. Throughout the Dark Ages and the Middle Ages, sugar was a drug, a medicine. It was used to pack wounds, to keep wounds septic. And it was very expensive, and there was very little of it. Nobody even knew where it came from.
But should I be skeptic?
It was called cane honey, because they knew it came from some kind of jointed grass, but nobody had a clear picture of what sugar was. Well, when you extract sugar from sugar cane, it requires, in pre-modern technology, a temperature of about 130 degrees. You cannot, free men will not work sugar. It's too unpleasant. You faint. You die from heat prostration. You have to take prisoners, and you have to chain them to the sugar vats. And so before the discovery of America, in the 50 years before the discovery of America, they began growing sugarcane in the East Atlantic Islands, Madeira.
Oh, no, I'm dead.
Canary
Damn it.
Islands.
That was close.
And they brought
Almost.
Africans and sold
All right,
them
my
into
order was
slavery
confirmed.
specifically for sugar production.
Cool.
Now, when we get American history, they
okay.
tell you that slaves were used to produce cotton and tobacco. In fact, this is not quite the truth. They had
Second
to
place,
find
not bad.
things for
Throat's getting a little
slaves
dry,
to
gonna
do because
lubricate.
they brought so many slaves to the New World to work sugar, and they had so many children
And then get back
that then
into
they
it.
just expanded and said, well, we've used slaves to work sugar. We might as well use them in cotton and in tobacco production. In 1800, every ounce of sugar entering England was being produced by slave labor of the most brutal and demeaning sort. And there was very little protest over this. It was just accepted. And
yeah, I'm really not as interested, I think, when he gets into like his theories about how, you know, some of it's sometimes interesting about how he thinks like psychedelics play into humanity's past. I'm really much more interested in the future. You know, those are the cooler ideas to me.
Practice that had been discredited during the fall of Rome in order to
the future could be fucking wild and beautiful and all that good stuff if we play our cards right. But fuck, it looks like we're playing them wrong lately. I hope we can fix that. You know?
I just think you can't produce enough of it. You know, I mean, look at the price of a pound of sugar today versus the price of a pound of honey. Isn't honey 5 to 10 times more expensive than granulated white sugar? I imagine this is always the case.
I don't agree with something. You know,
Oh, we got some disagreement. And I gotta tell you, I got some grievances with what you said, sir. And I'm gonna let you know about it. And then I missed everything he was saying. I'm sorry, dude.
That serfdom replaced slavery, but in a way, serfdom was a much more humane system. First of all, you could not be separated from the land. Serfs were,
so you could stay with your family.
so you could, and families were not separated. It was a kind of bondage to the land. But the separating of families, the selling of people at auction, and this kind of, so you're right that serfdom persisted. But you see, in late Roman times, they had what was called the latifundia. And these were essentially agricultural concentration camps where people grew agricultural products under the lash for Roman markets. And that disappeared until the 1440s in the West. Anybody else have? Yeah.
You might want to say this too, but following this gentleman's question, I wonder if the psychedelic experience or psilocybin and its ego-dissolving properties and everything, what happens that an elite would control that and keep it from everyone else if it were truly ego-dissolving and unifying?
No, wait. So many people are saying,
Conspiracy.
This must be an important point. I didn't understand it. What is it again?
What happens to make an elite few control a property that's unifying and
It's
ego-dissolving?
Interesting question, but fucking difficult to answer, I think.
Well, I think it's
fuck
because
would he know,
these things
you know?
have another quality.
We don't really
which
know
we
what
haven't talked
what
too much
exactly
about,
makes one
which
thing
is
another thing
the
happen, you know?
psychedelics
Life
are
is
the
kind of
source
random,
of
like.
special information. and these hierarchies want to control the information. I mean, in other words, it's the
Is a
pipeline
butterfly
to
effect
God
a real thing or no? Who
problem.
knows? Who fucking
And,
knows?
you
I
know,
don't
the
know.
Protestant Reformation was a whole effort to
Maybe a
overthrow
butterfly's
the
wings
papal
in,
claim
on the
that
other
you
side of the
couldn't
planet,
just
flapping,
pray.
could have some
You had
effect
to have
on the opposite side.
theologians
I don't know,
interpret
maybe.
scripture and
But who does
dogma,
know?
and they would gently
Nobody
guide
knows for
you
sure.
toward the right understanding, but that you weren't supposed to have a direct relationship to spirit. You were supposed to leave that to experts. So I think that's another issue that the psychedelics empower with gnosis, true information. And every society is based on a lie of some sort. So having people going around the official lie and getting in touch with reality turns them into social dissidents, and you have to control that. I mean, that was exactly what happened in the 1960s. I mean, we can talk about it a little bit, but what happened was too many people were getting stoned and then checking out of the official canon of the culture. And people just said, you can take that job and shove it. And this was very alarming. Now, every society can tolerate a certain amount of this. You always have people who just aren't playing the game. But what happened in the 1960s was that LSD entered the picture. And LSD is different from all other psychedelic drugs in one tremendously important quality. And that is a single skilled chemist in a small apartment with about $40,000 worth of equipment in a single long weekend can produce 40 to 60 million hits of a drug. 40 to 60 million hits. This is a loaded gun at the head of society. Now, I wrote a book on growing mushrooms, and years ago, growed mushrooms quite a bit. And I can tell you, an absolutely dedicated mushroom grower working his ass off for 6 months can produce maybe 4,000 or 5,000 hits of mushrooms. In other words, it's entirely a neighborhood phenomenon. It doesn't affect the dials that measure the fate of society. But you produce 40 million hits of a drug, you have entered the realm of global politics. You now probably have more power. You and your friends probably now have more power to affect the fate of the world than, let's say, the government of Switzerland. Well, no, not Switzerland. They have the banks. But the government of Finland, let's say. You have just shoved Finland out of the way and taken your place in the hierarchy. So no government would put up with that for a moment.
It's analogous to splitting the atoms. I mean,
yeah, they don't allow you to assemble nuclear warheads in your basement, and they're not going to allow you to manufacture LSD in your basement either for the same reasons.
In a way, it sounds like the LSD then could be, LSD related to psilocybin is like cocaine related to coca in a way. If you look at it, it's too easy to get.
Well, it's not, you see, it's not that there's something wrong with LSD. Here we have one hit of LSD. There's nothing wrong with it compared to one hit of psilocybin. The problem is that you can it's just like agriculture. Overproduction. It changes you from a tripper into somebody who thinks they should buy machine guns because you now have $5 million shoved under your mattress, and everybody knows you wouldn't dare take LSD in a situation like that. The presence of so much LSD has turned you into a defensive paranoid. Now you must defend your fortune. Forget LSD. It's changed from a vehicle of spiritual enlightenment into a commodity that must be defended at all costs. See?
The cost in terms of
Not like
what
this.
the government thinks of this. I mean, you look at what the government's doing with drug sentences now, and
What were they doing?
In Hawaii, for marijuana growing is a minimum 10-year a federal law for possession of nuclear weapons is a maximum of 12 years.
So if you have a joint, you get 10 years. If you're growing, you get 10 years. If you have a 10 megaton thermonuclear device,
You could get probation.
well, that shows you where the alarms are sounding, doesn't it, folks? You see, the hidden issue, and it need not be hidden among us, the hidden issue, the government always tries to paint itself as the mother hen, concerned about her errant chicks.
Damn it.
And so to
Second
keep
place,
you
that's not
from,
bad at all.
crashing into other people on
All right,
the
my
freeway,
order's picked
to
up.
keep you
Collins
from leaping out of
approaching.
buildings or committing suicide,
I think I'm gonna have to take a
we
second
have to
place.
control
That's
these
it.
drugs. As a matter of fact,
I
this
hope
is
whoever
absurd. More people die
stop
because
by
of
or watches
alcohol
this later,
than all
maybe,
illegal drugs
is doing well,
combined
taking
in
care.
a given year. The government is not your
And
friend
yeah,
on this issue.
I'll see you
The government
later in the
is
future.
very concerned
Damn
to
Pumpkinhead, he got you,
control
Jim?
the mass mind.
I had to kill one earlier, man. I've gotten pretty good at that. I've been using this new sword, the samurai sword. Oh my goodness, so good.
Which was in
It shoots out like a
1889,
beam,
I believe,
horizontal
the
and
British
vertical. I'll
India
show you, man, if we play.
The British East India
All right.
Committee
Bye.
Company commissioned a study
Y'all.
of him. They have spent millions and millions and millions of dollars to find something, anything, you name it, wrong with cannabis. There is